today we are in the best position of the exhibition and convention center. Similarly, for business, we also have a best position to build a sustainable communities in Hong Kong and also around the world. For two reasons. One, because business has much more resources and money to spend than the government and also than the NGO. Secondly, because business also is better efficient or more efficient in providing the utilization of capital and money to build the communities. Okay, so the topic about today is about how we can use a better business operations to create impact. Without further ado, I will introduce our speakers for today. So the first speaker is Simeon Chen from Vitasoy Group. Simeon is the Group Director of Sustainability of Vitasoy International Holding. He is the sustainability professional with 30 years of experience leading the development of sustainability strategies and overseeing implementation in consultancy and corporate environments. Prior to joining Vitasoy, he has also served in the environmental sustainability leadership role in MTR and also CLP. So probably Simeon can also share something about in the previous question. Okay. Second is Vanessa. Okay. Vanessa leads the Norsitime Group's sustainability transformation in Asia Pacific, balancing the creation of social, economic, and environmental values. She is also responsible for crafting Asia Pacific strategy to align with the group's achievement as a certified B Corp. With over 15 years of experience in sustainability, real estate, and technology sector. Her expertise is in stakeholder engagement, business operations, and strategy. Third is Gil Miller. Gil is MTR's Corporation's Legal and Governance Director. She is responsible for overseeing the company's legal, company secretarial, insurance and risk management functions, and central procurement and supply chain functions. She's also responsible for leading the company's assurance function with the aim of providing and strengthening second line of defense across key risk areas of the company. Thank you. Last but not least is Professor Thomas Wong. Thomas is the Executive Committee Director, the Chinese Manufacturers Association of Hong Kong, and also the Chairman of Sustainable Development Committee Hong Kong. Thomas has over 30 years of experience in the luxury fashion field and over 20 years in the building industry, specializing in high-end interior decoration. Recently, his focus has pivoted to carbon management and sustainable development of animal-based industry, including the meat, animal fibers, fashion, and pet industries. Thank you. Okay. So, why? I think today is more about the why and how. So, over 50 years ago, Milton Friedman saying that the sole purpose of business is just to profit maximization for shareholders. Okay. So why business has a role to play in building sustainability? So there should be some motivations or purpose behind. Today's topic is also around the how. So how different business and companies are doing different strategies and also tactics or operations, ensuring that they can build a sustainable communities. So without further ado, I will invite Simeon to share with us the perspective of how Vitasoy could play a role in building the sustainable communities. Simeon?
So good morning. So in the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you how we build a corporate culture through purpose and how do we enroll our colleagues to participate, and how do we frame and track the suite of ESG topics that are relevant to us, and how we track progress. So in recent times, a lot of companies have been thinking, what is our purpose? So in other words, why do we exist? And so Vitasoy has done a similar exercise, and this is what we come up with, to advance the world's transformation towards a sustainable future through the amazing power of plants. So what we're saying is we feel that we have a role to play in contributing to the overall sustainability of the world through plant-based nutrition. So a plant-based diet is inherently lower in carbon emission, and it takes less resources to produce, so less land, less water. Here we have a purpose statement, but it's fairly new. It was only released in December last year, but Vitasoy has been around for more than 80 years. So what have we been doing in these 80 years? So to explain how we evolved to today's purpose, I need to take you back in time. This picture was taken during World War II in Hong Kong, and these are refugee camps. So our founder, KSO there, he very quickly realized that the main issue there was malnutrition, because he noticed a lot of disease being developed in community, especially in the refugee camps, because of malnutrition. And access to quality diet, animal-based diet at the time, it was very expensive. And so he thought, okay, maybe I'll try making soy milk, because he heard from a lecture that he attended in Shanghai some time ago that soy might be the cow of mainland China at the time. So he started making soy milk for the refugees, and quickly realized that their health condition has greatly improved. And that's how the business idea of soy milk at the time has sparkled, and that's how he founded Vitasoy. So I guess in modern day terms, you would call it a social enterprise, because it's a for-profit company, but it's there to serve a social need. But then fast forward to today, we don't really have a malnutrition issue as such, well, at least not in the locations where we operate. I would say it's more a problem of overnutrition. Yeah. But today we are being challenged by other things, like climate change is affecting us, and natural resources are depleting. So we see a role in contributing to that through plant-based nutrition. So the purpose statement is now there, and that will continue to inspire us on what we do, so what products we should produce, and how we produce the products. And later on, I'm going to show you our sustainability framework, which is built on the what's and the why, the what's and the hows, so that we fit into the purpose statement. And why do we need a purpose statement? Why do we have to write it out? Firstly, we want sustainability to be deeply ingrained in the company's purpose. And then we also want all our employees to be working towards the same goal. And that's why it is important for us to have it written out and communicated to all our staff in the company. So I've talked about the statement and the what's and the how. So our sustainability framework is how we frame the suite of ESG topics that we believe are material to us, and we set targets so that we can track our progress. So I think we have produced a little film, 2 minutes. So I think it's much more interesting for you to watch that film than to hear me speak continuously for 10 minutes. So I'm going to show you the film now, and then I'll come back and talk about it a bit more.
Vitasoy is dedicated to great tasting plant-based nutrition. We harvest the amazing power of plants for the good of people and the planet, while taking steps to increase our circle of impact. That's why we're committed to the concepts of sustainability across all our operations and partners, and we strive to continuously improve. Our Vitasoy sustainability framework has two major pillars: making the right products and making products the right way. Under the first pillar are our product offerings and our packaging. Under the second pillar are our processes to reduce environmental impact, our supplier partnerships, our fair labour practices, our diversity and inclusion and health and safety, and ourselves. To make a valuable and lasting impact on the communities we serve, given the current and future challenges of climate change, population growth, and food security, more and more people want the right products, made the right way, ethically, ecologically, and responsibly. Due to this movement, there is increased awareness and support for brands like Vitasoy that are continuously striving to deliver more sustainable practices and solutions for the future. To help combat climate change, we have quantified our scope 1, 2, and 3 carbon emissions and have developed a glide path to decarbonisation. Working together towards innovation, we can expand our offer and solutions so that shoppers will have more sustainable plant-based choices. Let's keep growing. Let's keep improving. Let's keep planting goodness every day.
So basically, that is saying we want to make good products, nutritious and healthy products, so that we help our consumers enjoy incorporating more plant-based diet into their diet. But we have the purpose statement ourselves, but to be truly successful, we need to really align our vision, our values throughout the value chain. And that means we have to work with not just our own operations, but to work with our suppliers, our business partners, and extend it to our consumers and customers. We actively help our contract farmers to be more sustainable, helping them reduce their energy use, reduce their water use, optimizing their fertilizer use. We have in-house agronomists that go down to our contract farms and to train them directly. And business partners, they are asking questions. They want to also work with responsible partners, and so do we. So that's alignment there that we need to continuously work on. So the framework looks like this in physical form. It's actually very easy to remember. Making products and making the right products and making products the right way. Just 2 pillars, and that means we are dedicated to make better products. Sugar is also vegan, but it's not really healthy. So we're working very hard to reformulate our products, and the products that we produce, new products that we produce now are largely low sugar and low in saturated fat products. And then we want to improve our packaging, the big topic there. We want to be as efficient as possible in our manufacturing. We work with our suppliers, a lot of work there, because a lot of ESG performance in our supply is as important as in our own operation. And then we want to have a workplace that is safe and inclusive, so that our employees feel safe to build a career in this company. And then we want to continuously contribute to positive impact in our community. So I think that's my 10 minutes, and the 1 minute time is up. I just want to leave you with a tagline. I mean, our purpose is a bit long, so we have a tagline that's easy to remember, which is what the film said at the end. We want to continue to be planting goodness every day. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Simeon. I think most people in Hong Kong, if not all, love Vitasoy. Okay, I think Simeon's presentation also give us a great insight about, with the same mission of being a social business, how the strategy can be evolved in response to the changing needs and challenges in the society. Thank you, Simeon. Okay, may I invite Vanessa?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Vanessa, and I work for Group L'Occitane. How many of you know L'Occitane? Okay, that's great to know. So I can tell my boss that we're well established in Hong Kong. So anyway, I look after the sustainability function in APAC. And in the next 10 minutes, actually the flow is very similar to Simeon. I also have a video to share, so you can get to know more about our brand and our sustainability story. So actually, similar timeline. About a year ago, we also wanted to establish our mission statement. So actually, L'Occitane Group is a group of multi-brand companies, but you might know the yellow brand L'Occitane en Provence very well because it's the first brand since the 70s that's established in France, southern France in Provence. So, but now in the next slide, I'll show you how many brands we have, and we're entering into a multi-brand strategy to with an aligned mission to positively impact people and regenerate nature. So basically, our sustainability strategy is our business strategy. It's really to impact people and nature, as simple as that. So actually, since the early 2000s, we started to venture into different brands. So Melvita and L'Occitane are both French brands, and also we own the manufacturing facilities all the way up to working with our farmers that cultivate our raw ingredients for many, many years. So all the new terms we hear about regeneration or regenerative agriculture, we've been doing that, working with the suppliers and farmers specifically for many years, because it's really important for us to know the traceability of our raw ingredients and how we're working with actually the health of the soil of where we farm. And the rest of the growth really came about in the last 10 to 20 years, but the theme is really similar. All the brands we welcome into the group actually has to have a sustainability heart and DNA within their businesses. So they might appeal to different target audiences, so some younger, some more trendy, but the formula and the approach to sustainability is vital to join our group. Okay, so this is basically the timeline. This is a business presentation, so I'll focus on the last one, is when we became certified B Corp, just 2 months ago now, actually. This was quite a long journey, and how many of you know about B Corp here? Oh, quite good. You should be very proud, Gilbert. Yes, so my role was actually introduced because the group committed publicly to become B Corp certified about 3 years ago. And I think, like most companies, we might have underestimated the journey and the effort it would take to become B Corp certified, because we think, since the 70s, we've been doing sustainability before even it became a popular term. But actually, it was a really great framework to re-examine where are the gaps that we need to improve on in terms of environmental, social, and governance. So we're really proud to achieve that achievement at the group level. So I will share the video now about our group's commitment to sustainability.
Every action has a consequence, which is why the L'Occitane Group is committed to positively impacting people and regenerating nature. Our mission is embedded in our Articles of Association and empowers people to find solutions to protect and restore biodiversity, mitigate climate change, and promote diversity, equity, and inclusion.
At Sol de Janeiro, the foundation for everything we do is our belief that everyone already is beautiful exactly as they are.
Depuis le début, nous avons adopté à l'Occitane une approche humaniste de la durabilité. Le rôle de l'entrepreneur, c'est justement de créer un lien entre les communautés locales, la nature qu'il faut préserver, le cultivateur et le consommateur.
We've pioneered new sourcing methods, agroecological systems, improved the environmental footprint of our formulas, and introduced recycling programs that empower our customers to make sustainable choices. And there's more to come.
Employees in the company, they want the company to behave in a good way towards the environment. The customers, they will want to buy products from companies which fight climate change, which work for biodiversity, which work for nature in general.
Our role as a business is really to regenerate our ecosystem. We need to be sustainable. We need to make sure that what we're doing is okay for the three main pillars of sustainability, which is economy, society, and environment. But now we understand that being sustainable is not enough. We need to regenerate our biodiversity. We need to regenerate our ecosystem.
Melvita has been committed to protecting biodiversity for the past 40 years. We helped protect 60 million bees. We help farmers stop using pesticides. We're also involved in agroforestry in France, which means putting life back into the soil.
It's vital that we give back more than we take. That's why we launched our biodiversity strategy, to minimize our negative impacts and maximize our positive ones. Our climate strategy is aligned with a net zero standard with science-based targets, and we live by our commitment to empower everyone we interact with, building long-lasting partnerships with suppliers to develop fair trade practices, ensuring fairness and equity in the workplace, and empowering our customers. We've launched a global parental leave policy, giving 20 weeks of paid leave to primary caregivers and 12 to secondary caregivers. And we've pledged to become a living wage employer worldwide.
At Herborian, we are committed to serve self-esteem by empowering our consumers to rediscovering their skin. As a skincare brand, we do so by challenging skin representation with more diverse, gender-neutral, and real-life beauty.
For the last 20 years, we have managed to develop really high-end, high-tech regenerative agriculture practices that will not only help us to make sure that we are protecting and preserving biodiversity, but that will help actually the whole industry.
New business models that benefit communities and biodiversity are essential. That's why we joined the One Planet Business for Biodiversity Coalition and the Climate Fund for Nature to create a happier and healthier planet for us all.
We still have so much to achieve. This is only the beginning.
So I know it's a lot of information, but you can see the theme is really tied to our mission. It's really about people and nature, and we always talk about how we work in coalitions and communities and even with our competitors, because we know that sustainability, we can't do it alone. And I see the 3-minute sign, so I will speed up. So I don't need to share what is a B Corporation. So basically, even though sustainability has been our DNA since the beginning, we wanted to level up and have a like a test to see whether we're as good as we thought we are. So this is why we embarked on the B Corp certification journey. And then we'll just share really briefly what makes us unique in terms of the B Corp certification. So as you know, there are 5 aspects, and within that you can see within our governance, we have improved our sustainability committee at the board level. Even in terms of our remuneration for our employees, every single person has a sustainability KPI. I actually don't have a great team, a big team, sorry, but I work with all the functions because it's already integrated within, you know, even finance, marketing. Everybody is expected to have a sustainability role within their roles. So that's really great, part of the governance that we have. And for our workers, of course, respecting our talents and employees, we have our new parental policy, which is most likely better than some of the APAC markets that you know, their governments might offer. So we want to make sure that it's aligned not just for, you know, Europeans, but everybody at the global level. And environment, everybody knows about the alignment to the 1.5 degrees of the science-based targets, and also the TNFD. All of those we try to, you know, be walking ahead if possible, and if we don't have all the answers, we work with partners to solve all the you know, issues. And last but not least, community customers are really key. So you can see that we're trying to promote sustainable options for consumers. For the region that I look after, it's 9 markets in APAC. Not everybody is really ready to do the refilled bottles, but we're still adamant in putting that in some of our stores to educate them. So hopefully, you know, when they're ready, they can be more involved, and we rely on them to be involved to solve, you know, our scope 3 and also, you know, our overall sustainability targets. Okay, And just very quickly, in terms of our entire value chain, I also mentioned that we work with our farmers closely. So regenerative agriculture is one of the key components we have in terms of a biodiversity aspect. So you can read all about that in our ESG report. Secondly, we also focus on fighting against deforestation, and this means using the right forest positive approach and making sure we don't use ingredients in the red list. And I also mentioned about reducing and recycling plastics. So we also do our own packaging. So that's the beauty of that. We can control the use of recycled plastics, and we aim to have 100% of that by 2025. And last but not least, we also, like many companies, are aligning to the RE100 directive to use renewable energy and reduce our own electricity in our operations. So that's it in a nutshell, and I hope I will get to learn more about what the other companies are doing so we can continue to do better as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. I think Vanessa give us an insight how to leverage a systematic framework to embed the sustainability strategy into a very complex global and multi-brand situation. I also would like to declare two interests for me. One is my wife is a strong advocate for L'Occitane. He's a member of L'Occitane Club. Okay. Secondly, I'm also coming from B-Lab. B-Lab, I'm the co-chair of B-Lab in Hong Kong, who is the driving force behind the B Corp movement. We use a surveillance system to promote using business as a force for good. Okay. To look at the spectrum, I think we would like to explore this sustainability issue in terms of the legal and governance aspect. Would you like invite Gail to share with us her perspective on this aspect? Thank you.
Great. Well, fantastic to be here this morning. And I do also have a video, but I am going to save that for the end of my 10 minutes. And that will show you some of the key environmental and social initiatives that we're currently working on at MTR. But what I wanted to spend most of my time on this morning was sharing with you some hard-learned, in some cases, lessons and experience about the journey that we've been on in terms of coming up with an ESG strategy and a framework and really trying to fully embed it within MTR as a business. So MTR, pretty much everybody knows us. Low-carbon public transport, you could say, well, aren't you already socially and environmentally responsible? And, you know, the answer is, yes, we are. We've been writing sustainability reports for about 20 years, and a lot of sustainability thinking has always been embedded in kind of who we are and what we do. But when we revamped our overall corporate strategy back in 2020, we found that our E&S efforts were pretty scattered throughout the organisation. And that had two big downsides. One, it meant that our ability to have an impact was limited. And second, it limited our ability to tell our story. And for a business like us, the social license to operate piece is a big part of the business case. And so we wanted to be able to better tell the story. And so we worked actually with our board to come up with three what we call environmental and social objectives. And we set these alongside the financial objectives when we did that strategy revamp. So, of course, we have a green pillar, as I think just about every company must do. But for us, the social side is also incredibly important. And so we came across two social objectives. The first being social inclusion, because as a public transport company, this has always really been at the heart of who we are and what we do. Our corporate purpose statement is to keep cities moving. And when we talk about cities, we mean everybody that lives there, the able, the disabled, peoples of different gender, people of different nationalities, people with different needs. We want to be able to keep them all moving. The second pillar has a slightly clunky name, advancement and opportunities, but this is a reflection that as we grow as a business, we create opportunities for others to grow as well, and we wanted to bake that in as part of our strategy. So then under our three objectives, we drilled down a little bit further and came up with 10 commitments. So under social inclusion, we look at universal basic mobility, which is under SDG 14.2. And this is about providing a safe, affordable, accessible public transport system for everybody. We also look at workforce D&I, and we look at equal opportunities within the community. Under advancement and opportunities, I talked about enabling others to grow, and those others we count as our staff, our supply chain, and then the academic and kind of startup ecosystem here in Hong Kong. And under our green pillar, we have 4 commitments. The first is reducing our carbon emissions, and we've set science-based targets for 2030 with a longer-term goal of carbon neutrality by 2050. The second commitment there is around generating renewable energy and becoming more energy efficient as a business. The third commitment is on waste management, and the fourth is around green and low-carbon designs for our future rail and property developments. And we then drill down a level further, and we have for this year 44 KPIs. And you're probably all sitting there thinking what our board of directors said when I presented this to them, which was, wow, 44. Isn't this too many? It is a lot. And, in an ideal world, and where I hope we will be in a few years' time, is perhaps with 10 KPIs that are really strong KPIs that we can adopt right across our business. But we're not there yet. Take something like diversity and inclusion. We know that in Hong Kong, we're probably behind where other places are in the world. And so if I'd said I wanted to set a target of 20% of our workforce to be females by a certain date, the business would have kind of shrunk back and not bought into this and worried about how on earth we were going to achieve it. And so what we did with these KPIs is take a top-down approach in certain areas. So our SBTIs, for example, and also we do have a board-level gender diversity target that I could persuade our chairman to accept. But a lot of these are also very bottom-up. So my team, some of whom are here today, do a lot of negotiation with the different business units. And if a business unit comes along with a great idea and says, look, we'd like to suggest this as a KPI for next year, I'm like, fantastic, because that's bringing them along on that journey with us. So this was a real top-down, bottom-up process of getting these ideas, persuading different business units to work together so we could set a corporate target, not just a business unit target, and really trying to encourage the embedding of this thinking right through the organisation in terms of everything that we do. We also put in place a new ESG governance structure. So at our listed company board level, we have an environmental and social responsibility committee. And then at the executive level, chaired by me, we have an environmental and social responsibility steering committee, which is responsible really for providing input from the different business unit, coordinating all of our different actions, and approving and monitoring our ESG investment fund. And this was another key success factor, I think, in terms of where we've got to today. So when we set in particular our carbon reduction targets, we'd obviously worked out how much we thought they were going to cost us to achieve. And so we went to our board and said, look, we're going to need this sum of money between now and 2030. We sort of divided that up across the period of time. And so that gave us an annual ESG fund. And we then said, okay, well, how are we going to spend this? There needs to be some governance around the spending of it. And so we've set ourselves scorecards on both the environmental and the social side. And we did set 2 different ones, because otherwise it was always the environmental projects that were kind of going to win. And so anybody that has an ESG idea in the corporation, an ESG initiative that doesn't have its own financial business case, or an ESG improvement idea to a BAU investment. So the business unit may have a budget to replace their buses. To replace them with e-buses might cost a bit more, and they can come to us for that additional funding. The team then work with our finance colleagues to run these different initiatives through the scorecards, and that chooses or decides which of these projects get funded. An additional thing that we've done to try and help us really get there, and again, this has really helped us embed this thinking within the corporation, is setting up a group of what we call ESG project allies. And these are NGOs, and these are primarily on the social side. We do also work with environmental NGOs, but a group of NGOs who are interested in the same areas that we are. Because we're not arrogant enough to sit there at MTR and say, well, we want to be able to recruit more people with disabilities. How do we know what dispensations, what changes we may need to make to our office facilities to hire those people? So through working with these NGOs, we've sought to establish really 2-way relationships with them. We get from them their knowledge, their expertise about the needs of their beneficiaries. So for example, we wanted to hire more people from an ethnic minority background. We had to translate our frontline work instructions. It sounds easy, but by working with the NGOs, it really gave us that level of insight. What do they get from us? Some sponsorship, access to, for example, advertising space in our stations, volunteering activities and the like. So this is a program we set up about 6 months ago. We're in our first year. Some nervousness around some of my exec colleagues about how this would work, and happy to touch on that in the Q&A session. But for us so far, it's been a really good program. And the final thing that we've done is a huge amount of internal engagement. So we ran firstly a social inclusion week, and secondly we ran a green week. And this was engaging with those project allies, rolling out a series of activities that our staff could get involved in. So they understood why these 3 objectives were important for MTR and how they could contribute both in their day-to-day work lives, but also at home. So talking about questions like recycling, talking about inclusion, intergenerational issues. So there were things that people could take away from their workplace back into their day-to-day lives. And so with that, I will show you my short video to see how have we brought this into practice. What are some of the key initiatives that we're currently working on? Thank you very much.
I mean, to me, from this sharing, I can see MTR is a hugely engineering company, but with a human touch. Yes, yes, because I mean, they have a very clear governance structure that translate the commitments into clear KPIs. But all the KPIs, most of KPIs are very bottom up and also engage with the staff to be with. I mean, very, very good. Thank you, thank you. We would like to invite Thomas, Professor Wong, on stage to share with us his view about how business can play a role in building sustainable communities.
Thank you, Gilbert. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to manage your expectation first. I'm from a SME. So first of all, I don't have a video to show you. Secondly, I don't have a professional presentation. I did this presentation myself, just for this summit. So, okay. So, sustainability, well-being. Everybody knows environmental, social, and economic benefit. I'm here representing Chinese Manufacturers Association, and we are one of the 4 biggest trade associations in Hong Kong. And our members, they are all manufacturers, so they all have factories or manufacturing facilities behind them. So that means a lot of things. That means a lot of carbon emission. That means employment. They employ a lot of people. So this is me. So this is the purpose of this summit. So it's about economic transformation. And I'll be telling you a little bit about what the Chinese Manufacturers Association have done on sustainability, on ESG, together with our member. First of all, let's start with a macro picture. What is happening to the world today? Wars, pandemics, climate change, trade wars. Some of our members, because of the pandemic, lost 90% of their business. Think about this, 90% of the business. The revenue that they get cannot even cover the rent, let alone the salaries to the employees. So it's a difficult time. And most of these SMEs, they don't have a lot of savings. But on the macro side, there are big pictures. There's something that is out of our control. There's nothing that we can do. Wars, pandemics, climate change, trade wars. What can we do? We can just sit there and watch and see what happens. So what we are doing is looking at the macro side, what is happening around us in our community, something that we have a little bit of control, something that we can do something about. Since we're in Hong Kong, so I would like to look at Hong Kong, because Hong Kong, maybe there's something we can do, something we can change, something we can take advantage of. The Chinese government has empowered us 8 different centers. These 4 centers are traditional centers, financial centers, trade centers, shipping centers, and international legal and dispute resolution service in the Asia Pacific. Okay, this is something that we have to take advantage of. And this is something that we should use them for our benefit. But at the same time, we have 4 new centers. Are they related to us? Can manufacturers like me take benefit of them? East meets West Center for International Culture Exchange. We now have a West Kowloon Culture District, and next year, the East Kowloon Culture District will open. So we have very good hardware. And how about International Aviation Hub, International Innovation and Technology Center, and also Regional Intellectual Property Trading Center? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you know, 25% of GDP from USA is from IP. Think of Disney, think of all the movies, 25% of the GDP. In Japan, we are talking about 20% of the GDP. So Hello Kitties and all this. And in EU and Korea, we are talking about 10 to 15%. But how about in this part of Asia? In China, we are talking about 4.56% of our GDP that belongs to IP. So it's a lot of room to grow. Can Hong Kong take advantage of this? Of course we can. So well-beings. I remember when I started working, it's a factory, we have a production line, so everybody do their part. You can have the most miserable day in your life. Maybe someone you love is sick, maybe some accident happened to your family members. But if you are standing in the line of the factory, you have to do your part. There's no time for you to cry. If you want to cry, the supervisor will say, hey, wait a minute, you can cry. Wait till your lunchtime. Because if you don't do your part, the whole production line will stop. So it's not about what happened to you. It's about what happened to the company, to the profit of the company. But nowadays, this is changing because the time I mentioned, because we live in the industrial period, it's a production line system. But today, the new generations, they don't believe in 9 to 5 working hours. So we have to have a new system to deal with the new people, to deal with the new era. Just like before, even you have the most miserable day of your life, you cannot do anything about this. But today, the most important thing, because at that time, the most important thing for the company is to make profit. But today, this is different. The most important thing of many of the companies is whether the employees are happy. Look at Google. Look at many of these big corporations. One of their main purposes is to have engagement with their employees, to make them happy. So this is a value. This is part of sustainability. And we also have to have a greener world to live. The difference between, because we're in Hong Kong, the difference between the West and the East. In the Western world, in Europe and USA, it's like we are living in a village. Every company is an individual, so we need to cooperate with people. But if, for example, in China, the system is different. It's not like a village with a lot of people. It's like a giant. Every company is part of the organ. So some company act as an eye, some company act as a hands. So that's why during pandemic, you will look at China. The state-owned enterprise, they don't lay off people. So the government doesn't have to take care of the unemployment rate. But in the Western world, I mean, if your company cannot survive, you have no choice. The next very important thing for SME is our talent. Without talent, we cannot survive. And also with digitalization, with tech. So for example, what we are doing in CMA, Chinese Manufacturers Association, last year in December, we mobilized an ESG Plus initiative. And that is a whole program. So we have a pledge where our members would pledge what they would do, and every year we would go and audit if they have achieved that. And they are not comparing this with other companies, they're comparing this with their own company a year before. And then we have seminars, we have trainings, and we have an award. And so these are the things we are trying to do with our members. We have to think as our members. Because if we come to our members and tell them to do sustainability, to help the environment, some of them will look at me and say, hey, look, Thomas, we don't know if the company will survive in 2 years' time. So what are you talking about environmental protection? We don't know even where we're going to survive. And this is very true when you lost 90% of your business. So to me, the most important thing is take actions. Whether it's baby steps, it's okay. Take actions. Start doing the right thing. So thank you for your contribution to making a better world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. I mean, let's give a round of applause to the SME in Hong Kong. Yeah, because the SME in Hong Kong, I think from Thomas we can see the SME in Hong Kong represent the energy, dynamism, and the resilience of the economy in Hong Kong. Okay, so let's start with the panel discussion. Let me share with you the process. So I will start off with, ask a few questions to the speakers, and then I will open the floor. I would like to spend more time with the floor so that you can share your views and also ask questions. Okay, to all the speakers. Okay, the first thing I would like to talk about is about the major paradigm shift from sustainable strategy is about moving from conventional shareholder primacy to stakeholder governance. So based on your journey, okay, which particular stakeholder group that you are most importantly engaged, and what lessons have you learned to engage that particular stakeholders? Stakeholder like investors, stakeholder like your staff, your external NGO communities, or your suppliers or customers. Okay, anyone would like to start first? Gil? I mean, you talk about your NGO communities that you have engaged.
Sure, and all of those stakeholder groups I think are incredibly important. I'll start perhaps by talking about the board of directors at MTR, okay. Which is really around the challenge.
We are also the shareholder. Huh?
Yes, I know most people in Hong Kong are. But it's how do you establish the business case for ESG? On the environmental side, there is the cost of transition, the cost of investing in carbon emission reduction initiatives. You know, on the social side as well, how do you show the payback for those investments in the social initiatives? And I think, you know, we all know, and probably most people in this room who are here will believe that there is a business case, but it's not as simple as just drawing it out on a piece of paper that this is what we're going to invest and there's a financial return on that. So I think that challenge of thinking about the longer term financial return, you know, there are more increased reporting requirements coming around ESG. There's probably going to be more regulation, I suspect we sense in the future. The costs of renewable energy, the costs of offsetting are likely to go up. So, you know, can you start to build that financial business case and then bring in the non-tangible elements or the less tangible elements, the social license to operate, being an employer of choice, and put all that together in a way that can persuade your board of directors that, you know, they have to act with the best interests of the shareholders at heart, that this is actually the right thing for MTR to do. And so for us, I think probably the board of directors and that challenge of putting the business case together has been the most difficult, in some ways, group of stakeholders.
Yes, for most difficult one. Okay, thank you, Q. Vanessa?
Yeah, I think for our case, I would say two groups would be most difficult yet most influential. First one, because I look after a regional role, so at the global level, of course, it's the board of directors and more likely the investors, but at my level, it's mainly the country GMs that look after their markets because they decide, you know, the yearly plan or the 3-year plans and the budgets, and that's when people have incentive to, you know, to perform, right, under their team. So that's the first group to get them on board on the business case, how it's relevant to their individual markets. How can we use sustainability to perhaps even drive business? You have to plant that seed for them to come on board with you. And then the next bigger group of internal, you know, influencers would be middle management for me, actually, because they're the ones that, you know, really have to roll up their sleeves and decide what kind of relevant sustainability KPIs is actually relevant to their role to make the actions happen. Because I can't make the supply chain, you know, manager decide on which supplier to use for the next pop-up, for example. I can't make the marketing manager decide, you know, what theme to use or what partner to use for their next recycling campaign, for example. So I spend a lot of time on the, you know, internal education to make it relevant for them, to make things work for us.
Thank you, thank you. Simeon?
I'd say it's a very difficult question to answer because all stakeholders are important in some way, depending on the context. So I agree with everything Jill and Vanessa has said. You know, when I interviewed for this job, my chairman asked me, you know, how do we demonstrate values in all the initiatives we do, especially on the social side? How is there a way to quantify it in the ways that we can build business case? So what all the things that you mentioned and mentioned just now, even in the interview process, it was brought up. So that to build that sort of business case, sometimes it's really a call for corporate responsibility, and if I think different organizations have to work within their resource boundaries, and thus sometimes initiatives do not really have a monetary return, but it's so important that we have to put our resources behind it and make it happen. I just really want to add that I think investors are becoming more and more influential these days, especially in Asia. I remember many years ago in the other companies that I serve, when we went to investors, we almost have to prompt them, you know, do you want to ask any questions on ESG? And they, and do you want to know about a carbon reduction plan? And they would say, oh, sure. What, how does it affect your bottom line? You know, there's always that sort of question comes up.
Tough question.
Yes, but nowadays, you know, investors, when they engage our finance team, they always ask for another hour with me. They talk about the whole suite of ESG issues that they believe are important to us. You know, how do you work for your suppliers? How do you ensure there's no forced labor in your supply chain? You know, so environmental, social issues, climate change, they all come up. So I think that group, investors, I think in the future, we've already seen that happening in other countries, Western countries. I think that will continue to grow in Asia.
Okay, thank you, Simeon. The investor is a very key stakeholder group. Thomas?
Thank you, Gilbert. Because SMEs, we have a smaller ecosystem, we have a shorter supply chain. So the answer to your question is very simple. It's at both ends of the supply chain. That is the owners and the customers. The owners are very simple because nothing changes unless mindset change. If you come to the, if the owner doesn't care about sustainability, doesn't care about well-being, then there's nothing you can do with the company. Unless the customers, they tell the owners that, if you don't do this, I'm not going to buy your product or service. This would change the mindset of the owners. To give you experience, my experience. When I talk to my friends about carbon emission, I said, you know, reduce carbon and all this. They will look at me like this and they say, another cost center, expenses. we are not even making profit. How can we pay for this? So for us, if we have to convince them, we have to speak their language. We are not talking about cost center. We tell them, if you do carbon emission in the VCM, voluntary carbon market, this could mean savings. This could mean profit. And then the next question is how. You know, they open their eyes and they say how. If you can convince them, then they are into the game. Thank you.
The customers? You also mentioned
Customers is a bit of tricky. If you go to research, all the customers, especially the young people, will tell you that I would rather pay a bit more for this product if it's more sustainable and environmental friendly. But when they're standing in the counter paying for the product, would this be the decision that they make? To me, it's a question mark. You know,
only research says.
Yes, I mean, on paper, it's a moral high ground. You say the things that make you feel good. So sometimes you say, yeah, of course, I will pay. According to statistics, they will pay up to 15% more on a product that is more environmental friendly or, you know, that is more sustainable. But in reality, we have to check.
Okay, Vanessa, you want to
I
add
really
a point?
resonate with this. So this is my project to figure out how do we convert that at the point of purchase that they will really make the choice between, for example, the refill bottle versus a normal bottle. I think today the customers in Asia, there is a small group that are, you know, you can show them the ESG report and they will buy it. But there's still a larger group, the mass population, that are still on the fence. So we're working very hard to educate them to get on board.
Yeah, but hugely important for us to provide them the tangible benefits so that they can pay more. Okay, so another challenge will be about how to make our sustainable strategy sustainable. Because we don't want, you know, any of our strategy or policies to just run off. Okay, any insights from that particular, I think, how to make our sustainable strategies more sustainable? Any insights? Apart from convincing the board.
So I'll then talk, I think, about the employees. You know, so we have 16,000 staff here in Hong Kong. You know, and I can write this beautiful strategy with my team and I can get the board to buy in, but unless the business units, the corporate functions really understand why we're focusing on this, understand what the benefits are, and understand the role that they have to play, then I think, you know, it won't be successful. So I go back to the sort of story about the painful exercise of setting these KPIs every year and, you know, pushing people that little bit further, persuading them to do a little bit more, persuading them to think about a different area that they may not have thought about before. So I think that engagement exercise, which sometimes means you sort of feel like you're taking baby steps, you know, and yes, I would love for us to have set bolder KPIs in some areas, but I knew at least that the business was kind of, you know, coming along with me. The second thing then I would say is to recognize the efforts that they've made, because while my team can own the strategy, we can administer the fund, and we can sort of tell the story at the end of the day, there's only actually a few of the KPIs that we really own. So the Gender Equity Network, yep, you know, my team will run with that. Some of the social Train for Life's Journeys, we call it one of our youth engagement programs, we run with that. But the bulk of the KPIs are delivered by the engineers that are replacing the chillers, by our HR colleagues who are drafting job adverts and trying to make sure they appeal to a broader group of people. And I think it's really important that when we're talking about our ESG journey and our ESG achievements, we recognize their efforts because they love kind of seeing themselves up there as having been a part of this journey. So engage and recognize.
Thank you very much, Gil. Thomas? Or
To me, in this case, I think the employees plays a very important role because, as I mentioned in my presentation, nowadays, especially the younger generations, they are not expecting a 9-to-5 jobs. So they want, I mean, it's unlike when I was entering this career world, where if I didn't work, I might not be able to put food on my table. I might not be able to go and consult a doctor and to get the medicine that I need if I was sick. But nowadays, the young people, they have this type of pressure. You know, they can always go to their parents for more money, or they can go to the hospitals, and if you know, all they have to do is to wait a bit longer time for medical attentions. So to them, for the young people, the more important thing is the value. It's the value plus whether they're happy. You know, the happiness and the value are very important. So to make the strategy sustainable, I think we have to make sure that our employees, they see the value in this, and also they are happy. We're sitting here, we're all representing the business community. If we're talking about a community, a society, even a country's sustainable strategies, business sectors are very important. To me, business sector is like an engine to a car.
Yeah.
You can have a Rolls Royce, you can have a Ferrari, but if you don't have an engine in it, you are not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Simeon?
So I think my answer is very similar to what you have said. I think the main thing, all of us have talked about purpose, right? And I think the main thing is really first step to make it relevant to your business strategy. If it's part of your business, then you are always going towards the same goal. And then when we developed the purpose statement, that was difficult because we have to you can imagine we're going rounds and rounds to refine the wordings. And then after we've had it, the next step really was to communicate to our employees, and we ran a massive internal communication process. So we were going to all the departments and explain to them, not forcing them to remember the wording, but rather explaining to them why their work is relevant to this purpose, and what they're doing is already relevant. And so keep on doing what you're doing, and then tell them where the gaps are. And then also KPIs, I think, is important. We have put sustainability KPIs in all managers and above. And the first year we did it was just all the department heads, and I can tell you I was so busy, because every department head was knocking on my door. What do I have to do? So IT came, finance came, legal came. They all came and said, okay, how is my work relevant to sustainability, right? So a lot of them originally thought, okay, we save a few more papers, we make meetings paperless, and that would be all they need to do. But then IT came to me and said, well, we've already done that, so what else do I have to do? And I said, well, ESG data, help me collect ESG data, to improve traceability, so that we can track progress. Can you help us build a system to do that? And they said, oh, I see. So they went back and put it into a KPI, and then they trickled it down throughout the company. So we through that sort of process, we get everybody on board. I think it's important because sustainability is really just not one department's work.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Simeon. Vanessa?
Okay, just a few things to add. Actually, I think to make it sustainable, how we approach it was twofold. One is top-down, one is bottom-up. So top-down is actually when we embarked on the B Corp journey, everybody initially just felt like it was a lot more work than they are ready for. Similar to what Simeon says, like, I work in finance. Why do I have to calculate this data for you to submit to B Corp? I have no interest. So I think our board was very smart. A year into the journey, they actually designed the employee bonus to have an element tied to the B Corp score.
Wow. Great idea.
So then everybody was knocking on my door to say, how do we work better so that we can have more of the points? Because it's really simple. It was like, it was an interim score. So, we have to get 80 to certify, but we weren't there yet. So the first bonus, which was last year's, is up to 70. So then in the middle of the journey, at least when everybody worked for it, they can see we could get there. So I could really see the shift when we got 73. So they got a little bit more bonus than just meeting the threshold, and everybody was very excited for it. And I know for some sustainability professionals might think this is not very genuine because everybody's working for the bonus, but then seeing that mindset shift, I saw that they became more energetic, and they would come to me with solutions themselves. And I think that, again, planted the seed, and now it's not just about the bonus. They want to do more, and they see the relevancy, but that was the initial push. So that's the top-down part, and the bottom-up part is pretty much working with different partners. So because even though I look after the region, I'm based in Hong Kong, so I always knock on the Hong Kong GM store to say, hey, can you work with Carbon Wallet? Can you work with, other even small local NGOs or social enterprises to, figure something out? So they're very open for that, and I think it's been quite successful with Carbon Wallet. So those are the two types of things that make it more relevant, and they take more ownership on it.
Thank you. Okay, so let's...
I'll just maybe add what Carbon Wallet is,
okay.
Perhaps. So Carbon Wallet is a little startup that was founded by 2 MTR employees some time ago. And the idea is it rewards green behaviours. So we had a fantastic partnership with L'Occitane, where if people were recycling their bottles, then they would get Carbon Wallet points. And those can then be spent at green restaurants or to encourage kind of further green behaviours. So it's really trying to encourage that whole pay it back or pay it forward feeling within the community. So great
thank you. I think this is the beauty of collective action, collective sustainability, so that we can work together to provide the benefits to the society. Okay, so I think I would like to make this discussion more interactive. Okay, on the one hand, I will give time for you guys to ask questions or share your comments to the speakers. But on the other hand, I would also allow time for our speakers also to ask you questions or throw a question to you guys to think about. Because I think today is more about, interaction. I think they can also throw some questions or raise some, thought-provoking initiative for you guys to think about. Okay, so first of all, anyone of you would like to share views or questions to the speakers? 2, okay. Maybe lady first.
Hello, thank you very much for a very rich discussion with a lot of fascinating details. I'm a lawyer working in the ESG space, and I do work with a range of companies and investors who may be at the very beginning of their journey. So my question is about what was the first step in your company? And I know 2 companies are family-owned and 1 is a listed company, so I guess the journey may be quite different and no company is the same. So the first step, was it 1 family member? Was it was it from outside the family? For MTR especially, I'm interested in how did the ESG investment fund started, because that is an extra step. It's not within the disclosure requirements. Like, how did that get started? So yeah, thanks a lot. And sorry, Professor, also from your observations, you can also share. Thanks.
Yeah, okay, the first step. Where is the first step?
I think for us, it's somebody that's passionate about it within the organisation. And we were fortunate 20 years ago, and some people in the room here may know him, a gentleman called Glenn Frommer, who was an environmentalist by background, worked in our Capital Works business, and produced our first sustainability report over 20 years ago. And he just started to kind of raise this awareness within the organisation. And we're very fortunate now that I have a fantastic team of very passionate colleagues who just keep banging on these issues and are prepared to raise it with the board, prepared to have the conversations with investors, prepared to engage with staff about this issue and to get people on the bus. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're all here about. And Vanessa, you talked about, you were sort of paying people to get on the bus. But I always say to my team, it doesn't matter why they're on the bus. As long as they're there and as long as they're coming on the journey with you, then that's what's important. So I think it needs people that are passionate and I would say resilient as well, because some weeks it feels like you go 2 steps forward and about 6 back. And so, you've got to be prepared to sort of get over those humps and keep driving it.
Okay, interesting. So here's the non-executive director or an employee of the
He
company?
was an employee in our capital works division. He left probably now, gosh, 10-ish years ago, but he was really, he started this thinking in MTR.
Okay, thank you, Gil. Anyone?
The investment fund. So this really came out of our carbon emission reduction roadmap, because when we put together that roadmap, we asked ourselves, can we get to science-based targets? If so, by when? And how much is it going to cost? And we looked at 2050 and we thought, well, we could get there, but there were so many uncertainties beyond, say, 2030 in terms of where are we going to get our electricity from in Hong Kong, what technology will exist. So we decided to go for 2030 because it was more sort of within our control and estimation, and we could put a reasonably certain cost estimate on how much that would cost. So we went to our board and we presented the roadmap and the cost that was attached to that. And I wanted to make sure that we had that funding sort of set aside so that I wasn't going back to the board every year and saying, well, we set these targets, but, can I have a bit more money? And so we took that sum of money, we added a bit for the social side, and we persuaded the board. And we do still have to go back every year as part of the budgeting exercise. And, if our business fell off a cliff, I'd be having a very difficult conversation with them. But the idea was then we had this money available to fund these projects that we knew wouldn't necessarily have an easy financial business case.
Thank you, Q. Lisa?
So actually, L'Occitane is both family-owned and listed, so it's got like a dual stakeholder approach. I think if you saw in the video, one of them is Olivier Poisson, our founder for L'Occitane en Provence, and I think it was just an innate attachment to nature, which is why he started the brand. So it's really in his DNA, and that's why it's in the company's DNA. But as we grew to become listed, to become multi-brand, I think more and more it's because of the expectations of the customers and the industry as well, to really have this, to become even more professional in our approach, because it used to be more organic. It's more like, oh, we work with the farmers, but now we talk about how about the climate? Are we at the level of the target that we need to be as a big company, right? So I think, and because we're a European-based company on the Asia side, sometimes it feels a little bit far and different. Like when I talk to my employees about the farmers in France, they can't really relate. So I think in APAC 2 years ago, when they start to look into, again, the B Corp certification, they didn't know how to do it, to be honest. They thought there was a huge gap. And so I was hired on board to get everybody included in it, so it doesn't feel like there's such a huge gap. And now that they are on board, they're more active in implementing the actions and also create their own sustainability roadmaps for each market.
Thank you. Thomas?
Okay, yep. To me, leadership is a key.
Okay.
But sometimes, to give you an example, Henry Ford, over 100 years ago, he said, I will never go to my customer, ask what they want. Otherwise, I'll be looking for faster horses. Same thing as Steve Jobs. He never asks the customer what they want. He said, if I would have asked them, they will be asking for smaller phones, maybe a SIM card in your thumb, But now our phones are bigger and bigger because we really need leaders who have the wisdom and who can sort of see into the future. So this will be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll give you a short answer. It's really our current CEO, Roberto. He was brought into the company about a decade ago to mainly to grow the business. But he's Italian, and with his previous working experience, he saw a lot of gaps in ESG front, that at the same time when it grows the company, that there are lots of issues that we need to take care of, packaging and suppliers and all that. So he eventually was running it himself for a bit, and then he created my role, and he said, we need someone to come in and really map up the strategy for us. And so that's how, again, similarly, one person in a very key position, passionate about it, and that's how it all started.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Well,
Okay, thank you. Thank you for a very interesting panel. So I've got actually two questions, but they're linked.
Shorter two questions.
Shorter questions, yeah. So I know both of your companies. So I'm also a certified B Corp at the company that I'm working for, and we're an SME or a small business. My interest goes to what you were alluding to, which was how much did you see the process of going through the certification or the whole impact assessment actually helping you to drive change as opposed to just be reflective of where you are? I mean, of course, you start with that and see where you are, but how much did you see? And I also know that Vitasoy in Singapore, which I guess that Simon is also familiar and part of, is a B Corp certified company. So my first question is, how much do you see that actually the impact assessment as a framework and as a tool helped you to drive change as opposed to just reflect it? And then the second one, I'm just curious about MTR. I know you are a listed company and so forth, but will you become a B Corp?
I would say initially the founders and the CEO then thought it was a reflective exercise, but when they saw the baseline score, it was a catching up. So it was definitely, we needed to do some of the actions that wasn't on their radar. So for me, it was a very good framework to crystallize exactly 1, 2, 3, this function, you need to do this so that we can get there. And it was both a good tool, well-established tool to look at the business in a 360 way, in a language they understand. Also that comes with an action plan, technically. So, and because we had already made a commitment publicly, so there was a timeline to finish this within 2-3 years. And that also created some urgency, which I think business leaders are, they're all ambitious, and this is part of their, their ambition and their passion to come on board as well. So it was definitely not just reflective after we saw the baseline score.
Thank you.
Short answer, a lot, because we're not as brave as L'Occitane. We still for the whole company certified in one go. We convinced the board to let us try with a smaller market, Singapore, which has its own manufacturing facilities, and the office has all the key components, the HR department and marketing department. All that is very self-contained. But the assessment, those of you who are not familiar with it, I would encourage you to go online and try it out. It's free, but the thing is, you answer, depends on your answer. The next question will pop up, and it's almost like an infinite number of questions will come up, yeah. And then at some point you think, okay, we've done that, that's good, and it's sort of a confirmation that what you did was right. And then the next question, I thought, okay, maybe we're not that great after all. And that brings a lot of soul searching and rethinking, reconsidering, is it relevant to us? Are we really that behind? Is it possible for us to do it in our company? And there were a lot of things in the assessment that asked for that we decided actually is not really the right time yet. But you only need 80 points out of 200 to get certified. And I tell you that 80 points are really very hard to come by. So I think in the end, it gives us a lot of things to think about, understanding what the best practice, ultimate best practices are, and then consider whether, is that under what sort of time frame can we get to those best practices, and how do we apply it to other parts of our company. So yes, it really helps.
Yeah. You? Tough or easy question for you?
Easy question. No, we don't have plans at the minute. And I have to say, and this is a very personal view of mine, is that while I think companies that have got B Corp status, fantastic. My slight worry with it is that the companies that don't have B Corp status then kind of think, well, they don't have to worry about these issues. Environmental and social responsibility. We're not a B Corp. We can just make money for our shareholders. But I think to your first question, and I take the reporting example for us, the new ISSB standards that are coming in, they're absolutely tools that can help you drive change, because whether you've got to hit a particular score, whether you've got to report more information, you can take that to your board and say, look, people are interested in this. And so it forces you to look at what you're doing and then hopefully to start to improve. So I absolutely think these things can be used as a driver for change.
Thank you. Thomas, any thoughts? I think probably SME also facing different types of standards or reporting. Any views of how those standards of reporting?
I think the incentive from governments are very important. To give you an example, because of the carbon border adjustment mechanism of EU, a lot of these Hong Kong manufacturers are asking questions. Is this related to us? At the first glance, it might not, because they are not one of those industries. But when it comes to scope 3, they might be related. So the government, either incentive or regulations, will make a lot of difference.
Okay, thank you. Okay, one question from this gentleman. Okay, sorry, for the sake of time, I would also like to ask, invite another question. But ideally, the question should be coming from a participant from cross-border. Okay, because I think SES is a regional initiative. We would like to have some questions from. Okay, this gentleman. This gentleman first. Okay.
主持人好，各位大家好，我是来自深圳的社福界的严先生。08年第一届开始，我一直关注这个。我要提的一个问题，可能相关，也可能不相关。今天很高兴，我在坐香港地铁啊，从会展中心出来，很激动，因为这几年呢一直看这个秀。我要提的问题是，我们的社企民间高峰会能不能到深圳办？坐着地铁可以到罗湖，跟罗湖区政府合作，可以到福田口岸跟福田区政府合作，还可以到深圳湾口岸跟宝安区政府合作。
OK，
到那时候你的费用只是一半，但是你来的客人可以是1倍甚至100倍。完了。
Okay, thank you for the question. Probably, I think this question should be better answered by our organizing committee. Okay, but I think I would try to reframe the questions. How we can encourage the cross-border collaboration in terms of sustainability strategy? Okay, because that question is about how we can organize SES in Shenzhen. But probably that would be better answered by our organizing committee. But I would reframe the question into how to encourage cross-border collaboration in terms of pushing sustainability strategy. Any thoughts?
To me, we need a totally different mindset. As I mentioned, in the Western world, social enterprise play a very important role because there's some functions that the government and society don't play. But in the Chinese system, it's different. You know, the state-owned enterprise governments are doing a lot that is overlapping with what we are doing here in Hong Kong by the social enterprise. So we need a total different mindset.
Okay, different mindset. Okay, you? Any cross-border collaboration experience?
So we obviously have some with our businesses in the mainland, and I think from a supply chain perspective, obviously a large part of our supply chain is in the mainland. So last week or the week before, we ran an ESG seminar for our suppliers, and we're amazed that almost 100 of them signed up. And we're really interested in all sorts of different questions. You know, where do you start? How do you write your first sustainability report and these types of things? One thing though, interestingly, one of the things I love about working in ESG is how open people are, because generally people that are in this space want others to do better. And so we're very happy to share. But I read recently an article, and it was from Europe, but I hope it doesn't kind of come this way. It was from the competition authorities, which were starting to crack down on sharing of information and initiatives from a sustainability perspective, from the fear that it would impact, the open market and potentially give certain people a competitive advantage. And it kind of worried me, because I think actually what we do need is open sharing in this space, and a drive for us all to do better.
Thank you. Vanessa?
So actually, as part of the regional role, I also look after the mainland market, and the way I work with them is distinctly different from the way perhaps I work with Hong Kong team or Singapore team. So I think we first have to respect kind of their thinking, and also what are their local governmental perhaps incentive or strategy. So things can change overnight if there's a policy in the mainland, and it could be happening very fast. So I think even with the B Corp certification, perhaps in the beginning, they don't know what it is, but if you make it relevant to, hey, actually, in this city, this is going to happen now. So if you do this, you're going to meet that. So putting that together for them, they will do it very fast and more efficient than some of my other markets, actually.
Thank you. Simeon?
Yeah, we are also a regional company, and like B Corp, we always used to test things out in a smaller market. So, for example, in Australia, they are already subscribing to 100% renewable energy.
Oh.
So we saw that and we thought, okay, can we do that in other markets? So we go into a research project and look at it, and the answer is no. It's clean energy is not really that readily available yet, but then it feeds into the overall consideration of the company. You know, some things are easier in some markets, and then we keep that as a consideration for others and watch out for opportunities. And like Vanessa said, you know, some issues need to be tread on very carefully. For example, human rights. I mean, the word itself is sensitive in some markets than others. So we have to be taking really very different approaches in different markets. But yeah, experiences just feed on each other and help us progress as a company as a whole.
Thank you. Thank you, Simeon. Okay, so 2 more questions.
Well, thank you very much for sharing. I love the power of your stories. It's really inspirational. So thank you very much. I'm in a company called Vivid Coaching, where we accompany leaders to grow their impact. So that's what we do. And I mean, there's so much energy in here. I'm so happy to be there and to witness it. But I also know that many people are unsure how to impose change, and they would like to, but. And I'm interested in the buts, like so many things that's going in the way of them to inspire or engage some change in their companies. So I'm curious, like, what advice would you give to them for them to take the first steps into inspiring change for their companies?
Thank you, thank you. I think that means having the biggest but in your situation and how to tackle that but.
Maybe gentlemen first this time. In my years of career in this, I have spoken to a lot of SMEs about this issue, especially for smaller companies who do not have as much resources to do this. And most of the time, they would start with something very small, identifying something that they can do almost without a financial burden. And that they can see results very quickly. And I think that's important. It sounds like cliche, you know, to say this, but really starting small and getting results so that they can see the benefit and then build on that. I think that is, I mean, sustainability is a journey. You do the best you can today, and when you have more resources, then you go on and do more. So I think that's really would be my take on this.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, when I started my role 2 years ago, the first year I didn't have a budget. So I think there's misconception that big companies have big budgets for sustainability. So how did I do it? Even though I had to, you know, I had my KPIs to fulfill and also impact to create. So I think to start, I actually started with employee engagement, which a lot of you talked about. So everybody was asking me, what's the next sustainability training program? So I was like, why don't we do something a little bit more fun? We're all about biodiversity, but we can't fly everybody to France, and we don't want to because that's high carbon emissions. So I just engaged a local farmer and did an urban farming project. You know, every week for 4 weeks, we would be planting something in the office, and then they can take it home or plant it in a rooftop farm. It's a 6 months program. And it was very cheap, and it was within the bucket of employee engagement budget. So I think some of this, you know, small companies can do. It doesn't need to be very lofty or very expensive, and it shouldn't be, just to make sure that everybody can relate and it's localized. Yeah.
Thank you.
But I have a small budget now, so it's better.
Eventually, yeah. You?
I would expand, I think, on that question or issue of engagement and say engage with stakeholders. You know, we see the pressure is coming from all different stakeholders, investors, regulators, employees, the community as a whole. And so I think for a CEO to actually perhaps put themselves out there and hear those different voices may give them that kind of impetus to get over the first step.
Thank you. Thomas?
I guess if the owners of the companies pay more attention to the employees of what they want, actually, I mean, this is almost no cost, but can increase the efficiency of the employees a lot. So that will be a good way. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Probably the last, for the sake of time, last question, please.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you for all the inspiring sharing. Our company is a listed company ourselves. In the listed company, the world of listed company, we are SME. We are a small cap, yeah. And we provide ESG service to other listed company as our clients. But we can sense that more and more listed companies are doing the ESG reporting just to fulfill the basic requirements. Therefore, we started a campaign in order to increase the ESG, the mindset, or to give a positive mindset to get them participate more. But we're facing the challenge that some listed companies, they are a listed company, but they will tell us, oh, we don't have sufficient fund, not sufficient fund, maybe fund approval to participate or extra manpower to join those charity activities like beach cleaning up on a weekday because they don't have extra manpower. Oh, how about weekend? Oh, we can because our employees don't prefer to participate in company events on weekends. My question is, or maybe you can some more advice that would be, I'll be grateful, is how do SMEs handle their challenge in ESG, or how do big corporates as a pioneer to encourage this in our industry, even in financial industry or in the world of listed company? Thank you.
Thank you. So any advice?
So I'd say it's not necessarily about more, it's about differently. So it's looking at your, the way that you operate your business and thinking about how you can make it more socially and environmentally responsible, as opposed to it being that your staff need to do extra things. The example I often give is, when we buy uniforms for our staff, we should get to a point where when they're buying them, people are thinking about social inclusion. So are these uniforms going to fit people of different shapes, sizes, with different religious requirements in terms of their wear? Are they thinking about, advancement and opportunities? Are we working with a local SME on this, on the manufacture of the uniforms? And are we thinking from a green perspective about, are they recyclable? What materials are we using and the like? So I think it's about trying to get people away from that mindset that it's more and it's just different.
Okay, thank you. Any more insight?
I have experience of this when I was much younger. Instead, for example, nowadays we see a lot of awards giving out to the best ESG report, best sustainability companies. And when I was young, we have a project, we have a best taxi drivers in Hong Kong.
Oh.
So some of the taxi drivers, if they don't want to be the good taxi driver, they know that they will never win this award, they just don't care. So at that time, we were thinking to organize 10 worst taxi drivers in Hong Kong.
Wow.
If you don't want to be one of them, you have to behave a little bit better. So instead of giving out the best ESG award, how about the 10 worst listed company ESG report? This would get incentive for the listed company to do a little bit better.
Wow, this is a great idea. Okay, so thank you for your questions and also sharing. Okay, before we conclude, I would also like each of the speakers to give a final advice to us. And also, if you want, you can also ask thought-provoking question to the audience. What they need to pay attention, or what they need to ask themselves, what they need to do in order to have a sustainable strategy.
Okay, maybe I'll start. To me, it's very simple. Just one word: action.
Action. Okay, thank you.
So maybe I'll build on that and say, get involved. I'm not an environmentalist by background, but I'm passionate about ESG and the role that I think corporates have to play. And I used to feel, if I was sat on stage talking about a carbon reduction roadmap, a bit of a fraud. And then I realized one day, actually, we need business people to be talking about these issues, not just, we need the specialists as well, but we need business people to be talking about this.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's so always to be learning more. Actually, I'm still learning every day how to do better in terms there's new regulations, new technology. So I think it's always good to look for unusual partners.
Thank you, Melissa. Simeon?
I have a similar word. I would say start. You know, because the ESG spectrum is just so big. You can always start by finding out what is, we call it materiality. So what's most material to your company, and then find something to get started. And once you get started, yeah, you will make progress.
Okay, thank you. I think it also helped me to reflect. One of my mentor give me one advice. I think always think big, start small, but act fast. Okay, so I think my question to you, or my challenge to you is, think about what are the fastest action that you can take now. I mean, this is the thing that I would like to share with you before we conclude. Okay, so thank you very much. Let us give a round of applause to the speakers. I think they share with us a lot of good experience, insights. And also round of applause to you guys, because you also, your active participation, questions, and opinions also give us a lot of enrichment for this section. Thank you very much. And one more thing, before you go, I think there is a survey. I think important to get feedback. There is a survey that we would like you to spend a few minutes, to complete. And then we are going to have another section in the afternoon. Okay, so come to join us in the afternoon so that we can further our discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you.